Good morning, ladies. It's Dr. Carol Lourie, and I'm here today with the brilliant Michelle Robinson, who is joining us from the beautiful UK. And we are here to talk about functional testing to help you recover from breast cancer treatment and post-breast cancer. And Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Hi, ladies. Yes, today I want to talk to you. Maybe it'd be good to start by introducing myself.
Yes, I was going to say, tell us a little bit about you and how you've become who you are.
Absolutely. So I'm Michelle Robinson. I am based in the UK and I have a global practice. And I suppose you could call me a bit of a knowledge junkie because like most people who have come to be a health practitioner, I've been on my own healing journey. Not cancer, but I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome in my mid-30s, which turned out to be chronic Lyme and mold illness.
Oh.
And then that completely kicked me out of my corporate career at the time. And the kind of cherry on top of the cake was I was diagnosed with premature ovarian insufficiency in my mid-30s, which was devastating for me because here I was, felt like the whole rug had been pulled from under me from my whole life. And I hadn't had children yet. Early menopause or ovarian failure didn't run in my family. So it was really hard for me. And I was getting increasingly kind of frustrated with the medical model, particularly in the UK, just because I just wasn't getting the answers to my health puzzle. And I wasn't getting to the underlying causes or identifying what was really going on for me to get well. And, it's the same old story as most practitioners. I was passed from pillar to post of different specialists and, how consultants are just looking at kind of one system and not putting the whole picture together, like the work you and I do, Carol. And it's it's really important to look at the body like an orchestra.
Yes, very beautiful.
Yeah, and as if there's an instrument out of tune, then this can have an effect on everything. And it was actually the functional medicine model that saved me. And I can honestly say it saved my life. So yeah, today I'd like to talk to you about functional testing. I know you're all in a program with Dr. Carol and you're about to jump into functional testing this week in your program. So sounds like it's really good timing. But just to let you know, I work with women in menopause because obviously I went through that premature ovarian failure in my 30s. I work with women of all ages and stages in menopause and women who are post-surgical menopause as well. And what I've found with my post-surgical ladies is obviously after they've been through all of those, all of the cancer treatments, the body's very depleted.
Yeah.
We see a lot of nutritional depletions. We see gut issues and imbalances in the microbiome. We see low antioxidants in the body and low nutrients that help to really detoxify the body. And I know you cover all of these things in your program, which is amazing. But some of the functional testing that I really like and that I work with my ladies is one of them is the GI map, which is a comprehensive stool test with over 80 markers. And it looks for, we all know that the gut is the seat of the whole health.
Well, you and I know the gut is the seat, but normal people don't. So let's start with talking about why and how the gut is the seat. It's the foundation.
Absolutely. So, the gut, the health of our gut and the balance of our microbiome just plays so many different roles in the body. It's the third phase of detoxification for estrogen, for example. If we've got infections, imbalances, yeasts, H. pylori in the gut, this can really affect digestion.
Chemotherapy, radiation, destroy the gut. There's no way you could go through that. Surgery destroys the gut. There's no way you can have any of that without having it impact the gut.
Absolutely. And this impact in the gut affects the whole body because when we've got an imbalanced gut, we've got stress, we've got internal stress on the whole body. So now hormones are impacted. Hormones are impacted anyway, but we've got hormones impacted. We've got neurotransmitters impacted, which govern our moods and, how motivated we feel, how well we sleep. Everything kind of begins in the gut, and how well we assimilate and break down our foods and assimilate our nutrients is so important in terms of gut health. Because when we've got key nutritional deficiencies, or any nutritional deficiencies, that can affect the body in so many ways. And what I find is I often run a GI map alongside a HTMA. I know you use the Nutrivile testing as well. These are quite similar tests that really look for nutrient levels at a cellular level. What I like about the HTMA is it does give us some clues of heavy metal toxicity as well. It gives us clues on the ratios of the minerals, of thyroid health, of hormone health, of adrenals, of stress, of chemical sensitivity. Is copper toxicity an issue, which causes anxiety and fatigue? Do you need certain minerals to help you, reduce stress and anxiety to protect your bones and your heart? So I really do love these kind of tests that are looking for these depletions, particularly when women, like you say, have been through all of these treatments, which are so depleting.
Yes. And they're disruptive. The treatments are disruptive to the health of your natural body. And most people in the US already have some level of leaky gut syndrome or nutrient deficiency. With COVID, it's well known that most people in the US are vitamin D deficient and zinc deficient, and we need those for healing. And vitamin D, there's been a ton of research about the levels of vitamin D in breast cancer and breast cancer recurrence. So the beauty of what Michelle is talking about as far as functional testing is concerned, it's when I work with someone, it's not like a shot in the dark, like, oh, let's see if you need some of this, which is why tomorrow in our class, we're going to be talking about very specific tests that women can ask their oncologist for, so that we get a baseline, and then you do your protocol, and every 6 months we repeat these tests and we see how the protocol is helping you with your health. And Michelle works like that on a very deep level also. So did you want to share some slides with us, Michelle?
Yeah, I will in a moment, when I move on to the kind of other thing that I work in, because
Sure.
I like to work with like a whole body approach, as we all do. And what I find in my own experience was, and I find with my ladies that have been through chronic illness, is that kind of trauma aspect, that PTSD aspect of chronic illness. It's huge. I had it. I had it from having chronic illness of chronic fatigue and Lyme disease, and feeling like was I ever going to get well? Was I ever going to be able to relax? Or was I going to be constantly wondering if, this Lyme disease was breaking down every organ of my body, And I find this as well with the ladies that I work with in post-surgical menopause. There's the fear of, is the cancer going to come back? Can I ever relax and forget about this? I've worked on, my body, but actually our thoughts become things, right? We know that saying, and working on the mindset and the emotional side of health, I found, is also really key to the whole health of our body. Because when we are, these stresses, whether they're internal stresses that functional testing can pick up and help guide us through treatments, or whether they're external stresses of, when we think of external stresses, we think of work stress or relationship stress, or, moving house, these kind of external things. But we kind of forget about the mind and our mindset. And I often find that, women, like I say, they get stuck in what we call this limbic system trauma loop. And it was the mindset for me, which was the final piece of the puzzle. I trained a lot in something called The Journey by Brandon Bays. I don't know whether you've heard of her therapy.
I haven't, but I'll put that up here.
Yeah,
Journey by Brandon. How do you spell Brandon's last name?
Bays.
Okay.
So Brandon Bays, she intuited a closed-eye process. She found a tumor the size of a football in her stomach.
Wow.
And it wasn't cancerous, but she did manage to completely heal it without surgery. And she intuited this process, the journey process. It's a closed eye process that gets to the root cause of physical and emotional issues and can really help with those stuck emotions. Because let's face it, when we've been diagnosed with a chronic illness, the emotional side is huge.
Yes.
And stuck emotions, even on an energetic level, can, even in Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicines and some of the Eastern medicines, they talk about energy and emotions getting stuck and then manifesting into illnesses and cancers and other things. And what the journey helps is to identify those cellular memories that are causing these issues. So I trained in that for many years. I was an advanced practitioner in that. And through that training, I'd also learned a lot about the Enneagram. And the Enneagram is a 9-pointed system of personality types, of our ego types. And I came across some work in mental fitness quite recently, actually, with another coach, Shazad Sharmeen. It's his program, Positive IQ and Mental Fitness. And I came across this and it roused my curiosity because he built a whole program on rewiring and retraining the brain through using the principles of what I'd learned in the Enneagram. So yeah, I'd like to talk to you a bit more about that because it really was a game changer for me. It's been a really successful with my clients, and maybe I could share my screen. I'm not sure how this works, so bear with me, ladies. What do I do? Just press share here?
Yeah.
Okay, so share slides. Okay, nope. Share screen. Hang on a second. Let me just get this up.
I think it's ready for you to share. I mean,
okay.
Bear with us, ladies. This tech stuff can be.
Sorry, I have never been on this particular tech program.
I know, it's okay. So
I see your screen.
No, we haven't. We're not seeing your screen yet.
Hold on a second. No problem. Game has lost.
Are your slides up on your screen?
Oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to.
Because I have it that you should be able to share your slides.
My slides are in Canva, so I will need to share.
But I think they need to be on your desktop or something.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. It's not a problem. I can talk through it. Okay. So let's just forget trying to share those. So yeah, I just want to talk to you a little bit about mental fitness and positive IQ because, the brain and our mindset, what I didn't realize when I was working with people was that we're 5 times more programmed to be in this survival mode. And when our brains are in survival mode, when our brains are in this limbic system, trauma loop, in this limbic part of the brain, we ignite our nervous system. We ignite fight flight. And when we're in fight flight, we don't digest properly.
Right.
We don't breathe properly. The body isn't in regeneration and healing. It's struggling. It's fighting. That's why it's called fight flight. And some of us can be stuck in fight flight. We can be in this all of the time.
Yeah.
Especially going through chronic illness. So what this training actually does, what this mental fitness program actually does, is to help rewire the brain and bring it more into that prefrontal cortex, into that rest digest energy. Because when we're in our prefrontal cortex, we are in that bigger picture thinking. We're in creativity. We're in healing and nourishment and flow. It's almost like a really kind of visceral example of this is, think of having a disagreement with your partner. And when you have a disagreement with your partner and you're kind of wanting to have this, you have a bit of an argument or you want to get your point across. And then after the disagreement's over and you've calmed down, you kind of think about it and you think, why didn't I say that? Or I don't feel like that. And that's because in that moment you're in fight, flight, your body's in survival and your brain is in this limbic part of the brain. And this limbic part of the brain is like a seesaw. You can't be in the limbic part of the brain and the bigger picture part of the brain at the same time. You're either in one or the other. But when we calm down after that argument and we start to think and reflect back, we think, why didn't I say that? Because now you're in your prefrontal cortex. You've got access to your bigger picture thinking. So think about those times that you sit in front of consultants, talking about your diagnosis or your treatment. You're generally under stress. And often doctors might say to you, bring somebody with you. And this can be because we can't remember things. We have blanks. We freeze because we're so under stress in these moments. And then we've got the stress of all the treatments. And then the stress of, is this going to come back again? And all of this goes around and around in the brain. Now, what mental fitness and improving the positive IQ really looks at is rewiring those downtrodden paths, those negative pathways into more positive pathways. Because the way we think and the way we speak and what we do really does change our outcomes in life. So the actual program of mental fitness really works with overcoming your saboteurs. And for those of you that don't know what saboteurs are, I'm going to go into them in a moment, but they're basically habits. They're habits, they're old beliefs, they're things that don't serve us. They're not, they keep us in that limbic system brain. And the more stressed we are, the more active our saboteurs become. Now, we all have a universal saboteur called the judge. And I'm sure, I mean, we could do a really small little process here that'll literally take a couple of moments.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I really invite you to just get really comfortable where you are and to close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. And I just want you to just think, what is my story? If I think of my main story, that inner critic, that inner judge, what am I saying about myself? What am I telling myself? What are some of the things that I say to myself? I'm not good enough. I'll never get this. I did something to deserve getting this illness. I'm never going to get over it. Those negative, internal, inner critic. This is taking too long. It's not happening for me.
It's not going to work. I can't keep up. Yeah.
Yeah. There could be like, the judge can judge others. We can judge our partners. They're not supportive enough. The doctor's not doing enough. They've not got it right. They don't understand me. They don't know me. This kind of blaming energy. Or we can judge events and circumstances in our lives. And we all have this character of the judge. And some people's judges are sneaky and quite kind of low key. And some people have really heavy judges that, they never shut up. They're constantly attacking themselves.
I talk about this. I talk about this every week because in Jungian, it's interesting how different areas of psychology have very similar messaging. And in Jungian psychology, or Freudian, whatever, it's called the negative animus. And it's that negative voice that women have. And it's very critical. And it doesn't bring in joy. It just brings in judgment and negativity. And as Michelle just said, I'm not doing it right, or they don't understand me, or this person's not good enough. So it really robs you of the ability to be here in the moment and appreciate what you have.
And it really puts you into that negative side of the brain that I was talking to, that we are 5 times more likely naturally to be in. So we have to do something to take the brain out of that. We also have what we call accomplice saboteurs, and they're actually based on the 9 points of the Enneagram. And you know, these accomplice saboteurs, there'll be 1 or 2 that are your main saboteurs. And I was just saying to Dr. Carol, I will share with you an assessment, so you can do the assessment and find out what your top saboteurs are. Because when we have awareness, it's very, very empowering. We don't know what we don't know, right? But when we know what's affecting us, it can be extremely empowering. And these saboteurs, again, these are strategies that we've used and we've learned from childhood to survive. What happens as we move through life is they get more ingrained. They don't necessarily serve us anymore. Exactly. So these habits, we almost overdo them, and they now become unhealthy habits, and they hold us back. They block us, they block energy, they block our healing, you know, they ignite the judge. And when we're in a stress, when we go into stress in any moment of our day, our judge comes in, and we also awaken these accomplice saboteurs. And these accomplice saboteurs are like the avoider. This could be one of your saboteurs. And the avoider is a master procrastinator. You know, the avoider will put it off till tomorrow. I'll start that tomorrow. I'll relax more tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow. Everything is tomorrow. They avoid things. They avoid conflict. So when we avoid things, we stuff them down. And they become a stressor, because then we worry about them. We worry that we've not dealt with something. So we think it's a good thing. This accomplice comes in and thinks, hey, doing a great job here for you. You're avoiding everything. But actually, you're just causing more stress for yourself. The hypervigilant worries about everything. The hypervigilant, you know, it walks into the room and is looking for the danger zones. The hypervigilant is the person that in the party or when they go out with their friends, they're always the responsible one. They're looking out for their friends, or if the grandkids or the kids are around, they're always looking out and always got an eye on the kids and worrying that they're going to, you know, get hurt. The hypervigilant is also always looking for what could go wrong. What could go wrong in my treatment? What could be missed? The controller wants to control everything, every little minutia. You know, the controller will control in relationships, wants to control their healing. And absolutely, it's so important to partner with your health practitioner and get the balance and the healthcare that you need. But there's sometimes we can be close to being coached, or close to even, you know, we have dark spots. We all have these shadows, these blind spots. And that's how, where it can be really helpful to work with a coach and understand what those are. The pleaser. How many of you can resonate with the pleaser? You know, saying yes all the time, doing things that you might not necessarily want to do, but you want to feel loved and feel needed. And the pleaser can really overstretch themselves and really lead to burnout and depletion. They put themselves last.
I always talk about this as part of the breast cancer miasm, that women are saying yes to everything, and then they don't have enough energy and time to take care of themselves.
Absolutely. We put everybody before ourselves until, you know what I say, chronic illness comes to teach us the biggest lesson in the fact that it's done with us. Chronic illness is done with us when we're done with it, as in when we have learned to take care of ourselves properly. Because I often find that a lot of women, it's really weird, the timing that they enter into chronic illness. And the same in my own experience was a time of super stress. And yeah, the time of super stress. I'm sorry, I just got a bit distracted with that popping up on the screen.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm not used to this system, so I was like, yeah, this time of being really stressed really does come. The chronic illness tends to come at a time when the body is like, no more. I need you to reset. to look at how you're doing things. Another saboteur is the stickler. The stickler is like analysis paralysis. You know, they need to know absolutely everything about everything before they'll even make any changes. And the stickler can get so stuck in their ways that it becomes detrimental to their healing journey. The victim, you know, they are so in their negative mindset and the whole victim of everything that they can't see that actually there is healing to be had here, and there's healing for them. The other three saboteurs are the restless. The restless never rest. They're constantly on the go. These are the people that are traveling around the world. You know, they're up and down and doing everything. They're out all the time. They're constantly distracting themselves. They never sit down. They can't rest. They hate, you know, just nourishing and being quiet and slow. They tend to be fast talkers and fast movers. And then they really, really struggle with chronic illness, because chronic illness has really floored them, has brought them to their knees.
Right. Because it slows them down.
The hyper-rational wants to know all the scientific evidence. The hyper-rational is the researcher. They probably got bookshelves and bookshelves of books, and, you know, they love to research and learn, to the point that it can become so confusing because there's so much information and they just don't know which way to turn. Or the hyperachiever overworks. You know, again, this is another model for people who are just burnout. Even in retirement after working, they probably have these full-on careers and they're either overachieving their retirements, you know, overachieving in terms of just getting involved in too many things. And again, just busy all the time. So these accomplice saboteurs, those were the 9 saboteurs, and we all have that universal saboteur of the judge. But when we're in stress, the judge will call on your top 1 or 2 saboteurs, and you'll understand what those are when you do your assessment. But what's really great about understanding these saboteurs and really understanding how they can affect our lives, our decisions, the way that we show up in relationships, the way that we show up to our healing journey, the way that we show up to self-care and nourishment, is really so important to understand and to help when we're to learn techniques to help us to be able to intercept those saboteurs. So I run a program with Shazad Charmaine. It's a 7-week online group program, and we go deep into the saboteurs. You also have an app with the program that is your top 2 saboteurs are loaded onto the app, and there's a mind gym in there. He teaches you every week an hour teaching, and then every week we do a group call with me, and I help you integrate the work. We do deeper healing. You can upgrade for one-to-ones with me, but also you get 12 months access to this app, and the app's got a mind gym in it. It's got daily prompts that help you to rewire your brain from that limbic system and to help you intercept those saboteurs. Because, you know, when we're feeling negative emotions and grief, when I say negative emotions, I'm not talking about grief here, because grief is a very different emotion. We have to process through grief. But if you take grief out of the equation, and don't get me wrong, it's a big equation of...
What is a negative emotion?
So things like anger, anxiety, frustration, fear, terror, sadness. When we spend too much time in these negative emotions, we really start to activate our saboteurs, and we start having sabotaging behavior. So this sabotaging behavior then affects how we show up in the world. But what this teaches us is very small, easy. I'll teach you one of the PQ reps is to, if you just follow along with me, it's literally for 10 seconds. And when you're in a negative emotion, you can try this, but this is one of the PQ reps that's taught in the course. I love it. It's my favorite one. You can do this anywhere. You could do it in a meeting in front of people. No one would even know you were doing it. But if you find yourself having these negative thoughts, if you find your saboteur activating, you can catch yourself and do this PQ rep of where you rub your thumb and forefinger together. And you pay such attention that you can feel the ridges on both the thumb and the forefinger at the same time. And you don't need to close your eyes. I kind of like to, but in some situations you can't. But what this actually does is it shifts the brain from the limbic center into the prefrontal cortex. So if you imagine you're in this fight flight, you're in this stress response, and just by doing this with your finger and forefinger and really paying deep attention for just a short time, 10 seconds, that can shift you into that prefrontal cortex, into that bigger picture thinking. So what the training does is help to go deeper into the saboteurs, to understand them, to learn more PQ reps, we call them. And the app daily will prompt you to do PQ reps in the mind gym throughout the day. So you're building your positive IQ muscle. So just going back to when I said, remember the brain is 5 times more wired in that survival part of the brain. Think of it like a forest with a well-trodden path. When we have the same thoughts over and over again, we're treading down that path in that forest. Right. We need to practice treading down the healthy pathways.
Exactly.
And this is what PQ reps does. This is what mental fitness does. It helps us to tread those healthy paths down that positive IQ and improve. You know, we go to the gym to improve our muscles, but we don't take our minds to the gym. In fact, we don't even think about our mindset half of the time. It just kind of runs the show unconsciously, doesn't it?
I know, it's the worst.
Big part of healing, don't you find?
Absolutely. I start with the mind in my clinical practice. I always start with the mind.
Perfect.
Because no matter what else is going on, if you don't address the shadow side and the trauma and the upset and your negative thoughts, nothing is going to move forward. And moving forward is really what we need for healing. But you need to go underneath to bring everything up. So Jung says it's 98% unconscious, 2% conscious.
Absolutely.
Recently said to me, I think, with all the work that people are doing on themselves nowadays, we can change those statistics. So even if it's 95% unconscious and 5% conscious, or we can get it up to 7%, what Michelle is talking about is really helping you to bring into consciousness how you are sabotaging yourself and the shadow side, which we all have.
Yeah, unfortunately, none of us are immune to this. No. And, learning tools and techniques to help identify and to help cope with them, because everyone says, well, we don't want to get rid of pain, right? And we don't. If you put your hand on the hot stove, what happens? You pull away. And that's what you want to do with your saboteurs. You want to intercept them and pull away, not let them take over and then send you on this spiral of the crappy day, of the decisions you didn't want to happen. So yeah, it can be really helpful to intercept and to move forward. And when we're in that prefrontal cortex, in the mental fitness realm, they call it the sage brain, and the 5 sage powers we have access to of empathize and explore and innovate and navigate and activate, and you learn all of these in the course and how to implement them into your life and just kind of grab them at a moment. But for me, this course was a game changer in the fact that it gave me very quick tools. It gave me very quick tools to get hold of at any point in my life. And you know, the concept is, if you are constantly training like you would train a physical muscle in a gym, if you are training your mental muscles, you're increasing your positive IQ, you're increasing your positivity. And when we increase our positivity in life, then, you know, this like fills every cell of our being. This unfolds into every area of our lives, because it is all about our mindset and how we show up. You know, if you show up to a party and you're feeling crappy, or, you know, you wake up in the morning and you're like, this is going to be a really crappy day, you tend to have a crappy day. But if you've got tools and techniques that you can shift out of that you can help get on top of emotions arising, because emotions are normal. We're not going to get rid of emotions. We just don't want them to overtake us, to take over us, you know? So having these kind of tools is amazing.
I think that what you've just shared is really the foundation of, I mean, you have a very specific formula and wording, but I 100% agree with you. And it's the foundation of how I work with people in their mindset. Mindset is extremely powerful. And I think that it impacts even how people show up and take their vitamins every day.
Yeah, you're right.
Which for me is, and you know, what choices are we going to make? It enables you to have choice about the choices. Because, you know, you're at this party and there's these gluten sugar cookies there, which are your favorite. And, you know, can be a battle inside of your head. Well, I want these, but, you know, then I'm going to feel deprived if I don't have them. I mean, how do we show up to make choices which are going to help our health and move us forward? And what you've said is my version of it is, you need to have the energy to pull yourself out of the old rut, to move yourself over to a healing path, a healthy path. And you've just said it in a different way, beautifully, I might add, but we're on the same page with this.
Absolutely. And it's so lovely, isn't it, to hear things in a different way, because they land differently. And lots of things it's the same message coming across. You'll read one book or another book, or you'll attend one training or another. It's the same message. It's just sometimes we need a different angle. We need it to land differently for it to just really integrate into our bodies. So it's perfect.
And right now, with all the darkness and chaos in the world, I think it's not an accident that there's a lot of programs and groups and experts such as Michelle bringing mindset and positivity and becoming aware of your thoughts to the forefront, because we all need to do our bit for ourselves and for the world. Right now, we're in a very difficult place in our universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Michelle, how can people reach you? And I'll be sending out a follow-up email with Michelle's information, but let's just put that here. I'll add it to the chat.
Yeah, if any of you, you know, want to know more about the mental fitness program, or you have any questions for me on today's talk, please feel free to message me at michelle@earlymenopause.co.uk. I'm happy to connect with you, and thank you so much.
Earlymenopause.what?
.co.uk.
Okay, great.
And I'll send Dr. Carol the saboteur questionnaire. So she'll be communicating that to you. And if you want to have a look what level of positive IQ you have and what your top saboteurs are, then feel free to dive into that. And if you have any other questions on that, you know, you can always contact me. It's been a pleasure.
I'm going to be taking it. I can't wait to get it. Michelle, thank you so much for your time and your energy and your input. And I think this has been a really valuable conversation for everyone who's watched it now, and will watch it in the future. And it's been really wonderful to get to know you. And thank you again.
You too, and thank you for the great work you're doing. You're in good hands, ladies, and it's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So this is Carol Lourie signing off for now. For those of you who are in my program, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 11 Pacific, 2 o'clock Eastern. I got the time right this time. And Michelle, hang on for just a second. We'll talk as soon as we end the broadcast. Have a lovely afternoon, ladies. And this is Carol Lourie. There'll be more later. Bye for now.
Bye, ladies.